One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest is a text with incredible depth and is beloved by readers globally, which is why it's no surprise that the novel is ubiquitous in classrooms around the world. Welcome to part 2 of my video about One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, where I'll break down the novel for classroom use, discussing literary devices, author context, and essay ideas. Literary devices. While Chief Bromden is the narrator, he is mostly an observer, except for a few key moments. Early in the novel, Bromden says to the reader, "God, you think this is too horrible to have really happened. This is too awful to be the truth. But please, it's hard for me to have a clear mind thinking on it. But it's the truth, even if it didn't happen." Bromden is what's known as an untrustworthy narrator, so it's clear that not everything he recounts happened exactly the way he describes, but this acts as a great literary device for the audience to gain insight into the perception of mental health patients, and it allows readers to exercise their personal discernment on reality. Bromden's worldview is dominated by his fear of what he calls the Combine, which in his mind is a giant mechanised force that oppresses mankind, enforcing conformity and rigid standards of behaviour. Throughout the novel, Bromden often describes characters by their size, and this is linked to the person's perceived power and individuality, while the actions of Nurse Ratched and the force of the Combine seek to diminish the size of a person. The confidence instilled in the patients by McMurphy serves to increase their size and power. After the fishing trip that McMurphy organises for the patients, Bromden says, "They watched us march into the hall, blood-speckled, sunburned, stinking of beer and fish, toting our salmon like we were conquering heroes." Time and time again, McMurphy's actions and exploits instill confidence in the other patients, until finally, Chief Bromden uses his might to lift the extremely heavy control panel to break out of the hospital. The very same control panel that McMurphy attempted to lift at the start of the story, which is a beautiful piece of foreshadowing. McMurphy also says in that same scene, "Sometimes when I go exerting myself, I use up all the air nearby, and grown men faint from suffocation. Stand back, sissies, you're using my oxygen." This excerpt from the novel is again a cheeky bit of foreshadowing for McMurphy's last scene. Author context. Released in 1962, Ken Kesey's novel One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest was an immediate success for the first-time author, becoming an international bestseller and ranking in Time magazine's 100 Greatest Novels since 1923. The book has a 4.2 rating on Goodreads and is beloved by readers globally, which is why it's no surprise that One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest is ubiquitous in classrooms around the world. I'm actually a huge fan of the novel myself, and I believe that we can all take something away from its incredible depths and heartbreaking story. Ken Kesey grew up in Oregon and attended both the University of Oregon and Stanford. During his university years, Kesey worked night shifts at the Menlo Park Veterans Hospital and would often spend time talking with the patients. Kesey did not believe that these patients were insane, but rather that society had abandoned them because they did not fit the conventional ideas of how people were supposed to act and behave. The book was also written during a period of sweeping change in the US, as the civil rights movement and the youth counterculture movement of the 1960s spawned societal change. At the same time, the way psychology and psychiatry were being approached in America was also undergoing a significant transformation. The influence of these massive societal changes on the novel and its message cannot be understated. Classroom use. One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest is a text with incredible depth, and there are many ways it could be unpacked and interpreted by students. Student essays could examine the text through the lens of gender, asserting a voice for the silenced female characters, or examining the overtly masculine connotations of power. The lens of race could also be used to examine the internal and external obstacles faced by Chief Bromden. There are also strong overtones of regimented military practices in the novel, with Chief Bromden having served in World War II and Nurse Ratched having been an army nurse. Perhaps the military associations within the mental facility could be examined as a link between the regimented conformity society expects of its citizens. I hope you enjoyed this plot summary for One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, and I'd love to hear from you if you did. Please leave me a comment, let me know what other books you'd like me to cover on this channel, and I'll do my best to get to them. Cheers.